I think no matter what we all land on the political spectrum, we can all agree that there isn't a single slave or slave owner still alive. Just how the idea of punishing you for a heinous crime that your brother or sister committed is unfathomable, punishing someone else for a crime a forefather of theirs has committed hundreds of years ago is just absurd. You are asking to get rewarded for a strife you have never directly suffered. Being the most dangerous commentary show on Beyonce's internet comes with its own set of challenges. YouTube time and time again refuses to promote our videos because we have very controversial takes on extremely sensitive subjects. So chances are, if you stumbled on this clip by accident, you'll never get to see our content again unless you hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second. But either way, we're glad you're here. And now, back to the clip. The California Reparations Task Force has finally released its report after nearly 3 years, and let's just say that if the legislature follows it to the letter, Black Californians are in for a sweet, sweet payday. Jesse, the cha-ching receipts.
What do we want? When?
On the same day the U.S. Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, California has finalized its report on reparations for Black residents.
Why aren't our accomplishments as Black Americans recognized in American history?
The nearly 1,100-page report, 2 years in the making. The study details what it describes as ongoing and compounding harms experienced by African Americans as a result of slavery and its lingering effects on American society today. The report lists over 100 recommendations on how Black Californians can be made whole, including the state formally apologizing, return property unjustly seized from Black residents, end over policing and mass incarceration, and wellness centers in historically Black neighborhoods. Though the report recommends the legislature determine a dollar amount, the task force experts estimate each eligible Black Californian could receive up to $1.2 million, costing the state $800 billion, nearly 3 times its yearly budget.
It's not a handout. It is not charity. It is what was promised, what was owed, and what is long overdue.
This is not a done deal. The recommendations must be approved by the California legislature and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Some task force members are cautioning people to be realistic about cash payouts. Meanwhile, other cities in Michigan, Illinois, and Massachusetts are also considering reparations. And those on this California task force are hoping their report can be a blueprint for others.
Don't get me wrong. As much as I would love to tap into the sweet, sweet nectar of white guilt to the tune of $1.2 million, the entire idea of reparations is not only unfeasible, it is illegal, but it is also immoral. Let's start with the feasibility aspect of this whole thing. The report suggests that the state of California will be on the hook for $800 billion, which is 3 times the entire state's yearly budget. That means that for 3 years, every penny of taxpayer dollars will go towards reparations. No hospitals, no schools, no roads, no cops, no garbage collection, a complete standstill of life as we know it. Secondly, if it's taxpayer money being spent towards this endeavor, what does that mean for us African immigrants? Are we pitching into the reparation pot as well? We sure aren't getting a taste of the action. Because according to, the report, you have to be a direct descendant of slaves in order to qualify. And how about white people whose families came here after slavery ended? My boy Igor, for example, who just immigrated from Ukraine to Sacramento 2 years ago. Does he have to pay? And how about the descendants of Africans whose ancestors took part in the slave trade on the continent. Are we pulling up to Kinshasa in order to collect? It's unfeasible. Now, let's explore the legality of reparations themselves. See, any proposals for race-based payments from the federal government for a specific racial group today because its members generations ago suffered atrocities or were treated inhumanely will be unconstitutional on its face because the Supreme Court considers it an unconstitutional racial preference. All racial set-asides are only constitutionally permissible to remedy the government's present and recent widespread discriminations. The government is in no way, shape, or form constitutionally allowed to provide race-based remedies that, according to the Supreme Court, are ageless in their ability to reach into the past and timeless in their ability to affect the future. That's why, for example, in the case of Japanese internment camp survivors, the $20,000 they received in reparations were paid directly to the survivors, not their ancestors. In a perfect world, $1.2 million to each and every ex-slave would have been an outrageously lowball offer. But unfortunately, hindsight is 2020. Which brings us to the moral component of this entire ordeal. I think no matter what we all land on the political spectrum, we can all agree that there isn't a single slave or slave owner still alive. Just how the idea of punishing you for a heinous crime that your brother or sister committed is unfathomable, punishing someone else for a crime a forefather of theirs has committed hundreds of years ago is just absurd. You are asking to get rewarded for a strife you have never directly suffered. Now, this is when those of the dissenting opinion bring up the argument of the butterfly effect of slavery. The fact that the lives of descendants of said slaves continue to suffer the effects of slavery to this day. But even if that was true, punishing a group of people who none of them are the actual culprits of this injustice is just as much of an injustice within itself, which solves absolutely nothing. So in conclusion, it is painfully obvious that this whole concept of reparations is nothing more than red meat being thrown at black people every election cycle because it animates the likes of Charlemagne the God, empty shells that gobble it up and regurgitate it to their massive audiences of like-minded sheep, unable to remove their massive egos from the equation in an attempt at a faint whisper of intellectual honesty. And that, within itself, is absolutely preposterous.